Field. We've been here today to talk about a presence within the gaming community and maybe the gaming industry that kind of has gone on for, I would say, decades, but really has gotten to a head in the last 5 years. And that is the power of Asian influence. And you might be wondering, what the heck does that even mean? And it's the fact that if you look at the last 5 years, in 2024 counting, the most successful game franchises and just releases have always come from the East, our Japanese friends and part of my heritage. And looking at it over the course of the last 5 years and the most popular games, the things that have been released, they all have a trend involving the fact that the Asian media and Asian mindset has been doing better in the West than Western-made games. And there's a lot that can go into that. I've already covered a video talking about that issue, but let's go into why Asian-made games are doing so well. Let's get into it. Now let's look over the last 5 years. There's a lot of games that have come out that I would say are big names that have kind of been the uplifters in the current video game market. You've got Tekken 8. You've got the re-release of Persona 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You've got Resident Evil 4's remake. You've got Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. You also have things along the lines like Elden Ring, of course. You have things like Yakuza's re-release, Demon Souls remake, Resident Evil 3. The list can go on and on. Persona 5, you have Resident Evil 2's remake, you have Death Stranding, you have Sekiro. I literally can go on and on for the last 5 years of games made by Asian companies like Capcom, Atlas, Bandai Namco, From Software, of just banger after banger after banger and no misses. And you're probably wondering, there has to be some kind of Western/American games that have kind of hit a certain point. And funny enough, the last great big successful Western game was in 2019, and it was, of all things, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, they were made by Insomniac Games, which I'm sure if you've been on the internet, you've heard all kinds of things that's happening when it comes to the Insomniac Studios and where the direction is going when it comes to some of their game designs. But I'm more here to focus on why is it that Asian-made games are just killing it everywhere you look. And that's because I believe that Asian society and their approach to how they create things to be marketed and sold to their consumers is fundamentally different when it comes to Western-made developers and studios. In a previous video of mine showcasing the difference between shonen women to shoujo women and just Asian society when it comes to how they market their media, they always make things with the audience in mind as opposed to hoping to find an audience. And that's the thing, is that when it comes to video games, there's always an audience for a game, but if you go looking for your audience, you've already kind of started up a quote Schitt's Creek. Because the fact you're making a video game, and most video games nowadays cost millions of dollars for no reason, unless you're an indie developer, and more power to you, because indie developers have also been killing it for the last 5 years. You need to know who you're marketing this game for before you even start hiring people. Because again, you won't be caught in development hell and wait 8 to 9 years to release a game only to have it, closed down within 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks of its release. Ooh, Concord, why do you exist? And let's look at some of the more notable ones, I would say, like how Black Myth Wukong has been killing it everywhere for the last couple months. And now you have Space Marines, as I think of this recording, coming out today, yesterday. I don't know, I'm a little backlogged on my own video gaming. But when it comes to looking at the impact of these games like Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, and of course Shadow of the Erdtree Elden Ring's DLC from, Game of the Year 2022, another From Software game, a Japanese-made company, why do these games consistently just draw in players time and time again? That's because they are scratching itches that are well known in the gaming community. I'm not gonna dive too deep into the From Software. Like, you know how Dark Souls fans are. It doesn't take a lot and long time on the internet to realize how much people love the Dark Souls and the From Software franchise games, about increasing difficulty and rewarding skill, or even skill when it comes to cheese, because people who find all the cheeses from certain bosses, they're also very skillful because they went through time and time again trying to figure out how that works. But what I will focus on is like Black Myth Wukong, terms of story and character design, because that was a whole topic for like a month and a half on the internet. And then of course Stellar Blade, who was basically a battleground of the silly culture war for Gamergate 2, not like less than a year ago. And it's that these games just made fantastic hack and slash, combo, parry, From Software like games. Yes, there is a bit of a overlap in that regard, but I would say it's that these games weren't focused on their difficulty and were focused on making you have a fun time playing the game. Like, a good comp to Stellar Blade has always been Nier Automata, and when I look at that story, it was never a FromSoft light or Souls-like or anything like that. It was just a well-crafted, amazing story who happened to have a very likable Rule 34 makeable character in 2B, and then, you know, Stellar Blade made Eve very likable, very Rule 34 character. The list goes on, while also just being a fun game. Like, there was no extraness added to it. And I will always refer to this video because I really hope you guys would watch and check it out, where I made the point about, you know, comes to women in gaming, story writing in gaming. And we need to focus on the fact that if you just make games that happen to appeal to people naturally, as like there already is an established audience, then you will make money. This kind of notion that you need to go find the modern audience, or you need to go bring people into gaming, you're just doing a fool's errand, because why go to make something for customers that you can't even find, as opposed to the customers that already exist? In relation to that, I want you to focus on the fact that a lot of the franchises that I named and the companies I named do have a certain niche to them, which could be biased in my regards, and there are a lot of JRPG and RPG makers. Square Enix also be one I kind of forgot about. But I enjoy stories and characters in whatever form of media I'm consuming, and if I feel like there's nothing to them and they don't really want to be there, and that might be a weird statement for a video game character, but you can kind of tell through the way some voice actors sound when they're portraying their roles that they're just here to collect a paycheck. They don't really feel the energy of wanting to be in this world. And I always ask this, is that is the true reason for a lot of the downturn in Western-made games just the Gamergate 2s, the game journalists, and all that? Or is just a kind of loss of the soul of the gaming industry, which has been, you know, let's make as much profit as possible. How do we monetize our customers every single second that they are online? The rise of live service games every single time. I swear there's a new game coming out that lets you play as long as you want, monetize you as long as you want. But why that's a strange statement to make when some of the most popular games also right now are games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and the newest one they just made, Xenozone Zero. These are gacha games, and gacha games fundamentally are trying to get money out of you no matter what, because they will offer you to play this game for free, but they incentivize you to spend as much money as possible on character models, character skins, extra items, you name it. You can play these games completely free and grind out the resources you want, or you can spend, you know, like $3, $9, $12, maybe $50 here and there and get all this cool extra stuff that other people don't have, really paying into that FOMO. But no one kind of looks at the way gacha games work the same way we look at Western live service games, and that's could be a multitude of reasons. You could say character design, you could say story. I would say that it comes down to the fact that Japanese, South Korean, Chinese companies recognize the assignment. That is, we must make something that people want to spend money on. We must make it appealing in some which way. And if you don't do that first step, if you don't recognize who your audience is, you will go nowhere as a video game company. I do find it kind of like, in hindsight, hilarious if you think about it for a moment, that the rise of like anime fans and just the anime community kind of getting all these new people correlates the same with this kind of trend of video games, in which, you know, a lot of Western made American style things are just kind of being thrown into the trash. No one really cares about them or has much faith in them, while anime and Japanese and other Asian made medias is just all rising more and more. And it's kind of like how we were stuck inside for like, you know, 9 months to a year, and we actually got a chance to critique and review all the things that are out there because we weren't going anywhere. I mean, heck, I caught up to One Piece. That was kind of like a benefit of that time in itself. And when I look at that, I think it's because people finally realized that, hey, I've been being fed slop and garbage the entire time, and I was just going along with it because, you know, it was what's available, but it's what I could play. But now eyes have been open to the possibilities of so many other franchises and games that people are just having a higher standard. And Atlas, Capcom, From Software, Konami, the list of Nintendo, for God's sakes. As much as we malign Nintendo, you're part of the Smash community. Tears of the Kingdom is some amazing game. You get to make mechs, Link and mechs. Never thought I would have had that time in my life. But in order to continue this path, and what I think is kind of nasty is the fact that a lot of game journalists will just kind of undermine, disavow, and not really give the credit to all these Eastern-made games, when clearly they're just because they're kicking the butt of most Western-made studios. And if you really want to understand the Asian influence, instead of berating it and belittling it, why don't you try learning from it? GG's, guys.
Stop what you're doing!